This video features a model from a game system that contains mature themes, including artistic depictions of both male and female anatomy. The content is intended for an adult audience and should be viewed with discretion. The focus of this video is on the painting process and artistic techniques. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi guys, happy Halloween. My name is Matt, this is my beard, and welcome to today's video. So this is my Halloween special for 2024, and it marks the start of a new project. Now, the first thing I'm going to discuss before we go into anything to do with this new project is just a little bit of a clean-up side of things for the channel, just so you understand where this will sit with everything that's going on. The way I like to paint, and the way that I've found that I really enjoy doing my hobby, is if I'm able to do one or two things within one universe and then move on to something else, just to give myself a bit of a break, like a palette cleanser, and then move on to something else and then kind of come back round, like round robin. And as it sits, I currently have a Dark Angels project that I'm currently in the middle of, or at the very start of. I currently have my Necromunda Escher gang, which I'm at the very start of. I also have my Necromunda Malstrain Genestealer gang, which I'm in the start of, and I've received the 3 big models for that very recently, so that's a video to come. I also have, as I say, my Escher, my Malstrain, I've got my Dark Angels. I'm soon, in the next 2 months or so, going to be starting a project with another creator and also a couple of my friends doing Mordheim. So that's going to be really interesting and really fun. And then finally, we land on the start of the project, which is Kingdom Death. Now, Kingdom Death is a beautiful game. It's a game that I've had in my possession for around about 5 years now. However, it's got a bit of a sorrowful tale that starts it. So I received the game back in 2000, I think it was. It was just before COVID, just before lockdown. I received the game and I just started building a couple of the models. So I've built 4 survivors, I've built the White Lion, and I've built the Screaming Antelope as well. And they're all base coded, with a handful of other models from different series within the game, and I'll explain those 3 tiers in a moment. However, the story is that basically I went on a weekend break. It was the last time I actually left the country. I went on a weekend break over to Europe, and I came back to an empty house. My housemate at the time and I were good friends. Everything was fine. Everything was absolutely, no problems. However, for one reason or another, he'd made the decision to take the opportunity to leave the flat that we both lived in, and he moved in with some other friends without any warning, without any sort of, sorry mate, I'm moving out at the end of the month, because it was the end of February when I came back. And unfortunately, I had to very quickly vacate that property myself, because I didn't have the funds to sustain it independently. I didn't have anybody to come in, and nobody was able to come in and replace that person and replace that money that I needed to, to keep the flat. And unfortunately, I had to move back to my granddad's, and I just didn't have the space or the ability to continue my hobby at my granddad's house. My granddad had a beautiful, beautiful bungalow. And whilst I could have obviously put some newspapers down and that sort of thing, you'll know yourself in the hobby that you can't just sit down for 4 hours and easily put things away thereafter. You use a lot of tools and paints, and you make a lot of mess when you're doing this hobby. And I didn't want to do that to my granddad, because my granddad was he was a very brilliant man, and he had a beautiful home, and I felt that, the only place that I could have done this is on the kitchen island that he had. So he had like a beautiful, like open plan kitchen, dining room type idea. with like a little island with like 2 seats on it, and that was the only place that I could do any hobby if I were to do it. And that was just not a possibility. It wouldn't have been fair on him, it wouldn't have been fair on myself, and it wouldn't have been doing the models justice either. So I boxed them up quite carefully and nicely. I put them under my bed, and that was that. So I'd only built, as I say, the 4 survivors, or the initial 4 survivors, the white lion and the screaming antelope, and I'd also built up a few of the holiday specials, because I'd bought quite a few bits and bobs for this game subsequently as well, and they've been sat in a box or sat in my drawers since. However, this is now the start of me finally tackling a game that I've wanted to play for such a long time, and actually tackling some of the models. Now, I do have a kit that we're going to go on to today, which is part of the pin-up series. However, it does have rules for the base game. So to give a bit of context to that side of Kingdom Death Monster, there's 3 different tiers within the game. There's Kingdom Death Monster, the core game, which consists of the core game itself. There are a number of expansions that you can get for the game, which add more bosses, more gear, more options and opportunity to kind of explore and expand your Lantern Year cycle. The second tier is the pin-up series, and it is what it says on the tin really. They're not necessarily game relevant models, they're just more standalone artist series models that you can buy, build, paint, and they are part of your Kingdom Death collection. And then there's also Kingdom Death High, which I don't really know that much about. I just know that Poots and the team have built and designed this kind of Kingdom Death Monster high school aesthetic, which has different sort of characters within an adult high school environment or a university environment. Now, as the disclaimer said at the very start of the video, this game is very much an adult themed game. And something that I need to sort of just identify and walk you through straight away is the iconography and the design of this game. Very much encumbers male and female anatomy, and it's quite a flesh-based game as well, so quite a lot of the models are exposed flesh, and it's predominantly female flesh as well. There are quite a few male models available too, and it's, the models themselves, you'll understand when you see, but there's quite a lot of exposed breast. In some instances, there's also penises and fully naked models of both male and female gender. So just so you're aware, and just so you know going into this, there may be some model nudity which is going to be painted, but for the most part it is a game, it's a horror game, and it is just an adult themed game, so just please be advised of that. And if that's not your bag, don't worry about it, that's absolutely not a problem at all. It is what it is. My Kingdom Death series is a very separate series to my Warhammer stuff and to my Mordheim stuff and to my Necromunda stuff, so if this kind of thing isn't for you, that's fine, don't worry about it. Just, it's part of my hobby, because one of the challenges I'm setting myself here is that flesh side of things. Painting flesh is a fine art of its own right, and that's really what I'm doing this for, outside of really wanting to play the game itself, based on the fact that there's a lot of cloth work involved and a lot of fabric involved, but then there's a lot of exposed flesh that you need to understand how light affects it and that sort of thing, and there's opportunity for OSL. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys what we're going to be doing for my Halloween special. So the model kit that we're going to be tackling today is partially already been built, so part of it's already been built and base coated and primed. Unfortunately, the primer that was used back in the day was horrendous and it's bubbled up somewhat, so we're going to have to do a little bit of cleanup work there. But we are going to be tackling Sevil Satan, and Sevil Satan was a Halloween special model that came out, I think it was in 2021 possibly, and I've had I managed to build it and paint it, build it and base coat it back then, but the smaller scale model. So there's a big model and there's a small model. The smaller model I haven't done anything with yet. It's still sort of in bits and ready to be built. So we're going to tackle both of these models, we're going to get them painted up, and it's going to be great fun. So let's jump into the first section. So this is what I have already got and already done. So the box itself, when you receive it, it's just a simple box. Has the art of the character within it on the front. It also comes with an art card, and also comes with an equipment card. And that's the equipment card specific to the game, but obviously for the most part, and for this video, we're focusing predominantly on the actual models themselves. So I've already built up the larger scale model, as you can see. So this is Sevil Satan, and as you can see, she is sat on a pumpkin, and that pumpkin has, we'll call them worms for the sake of the video, but they're not worms, they're something very different. She has a lovely, glorious cape, quite a wicked cape at the back. She's obviously got her horns as well, and as you can see, she's quite a busty model as well. So there's quite a lot of flesh work to do on the breast area, and then also on the thigh as well, on both sides. Something that'd be quite interesting is obviously this jack-o'-lantern here. Now, one of the things that works against me is obviously I used quite a bad primer back in the day, so I'm going to try and do my best doing the paint job on this. The second part obviously is going to be the 30mm model. So these are two parts from it, and as you can see, you can either have her stood out just without her cape, or you can have her in her cape, just like so. And then that would obviously just get stuck to the base. It's pretty decent. There's obviously a few parts left on the sprue as well. So I've got the trident that she has, her hair, her head, and a jack-o'-lantern too, and her tail. So that's going to be quite interesting to do. So I think for the first part of the video, I'm going to just build up this one, so the small one. I'm going to get that primed with Colourforge's matte white. Hopefully it'll land well. I haven't had any issues with Colourforge so far, so fingers crossed they maintain that goodness. But yes, let's jump into making Sevil Satan. And there we have Sevil Satan built. Now, one of the things that I will mention about the plastics used, they feel a little bit more brittle, so you have to be a bit more cautious whilst you're handling everything. But outside of that, this looks absolutely amazing, and I'm really looking forward to cracking on with the model. So I'm going to go and base coat this, and then we shall start painting. And now we are ready to paint. So I've done 2 layers of the Colourforge matte white base coat on both of these models. I retouched up the larger model, and it's looking a lot more flat and a lot more smooth now, so I'm really happy with that. Same with the smaller 30mm model. Now I really like the pose and the position of the 30mm model. I think it looks absolutely amazing, and I think when it comes to painting, I'm going to have quite a lot of fun, one with the cape, but then 2, actually getting some of the flesh tones in there as well. Now, for the flesh tones, I have actually bought a new product, and that product is the Vallejo Pale Skin Set, which is from their Game Colour range. Now, within that range, you get the Pale Flesh, Rosy Flesh, Athena Skin, and Succubus Skin. Now, these are all meant to be working together, so I'll be using all 4 of these paints on this job. It does come with a couple of different instructions as to how to get the best out of that paint, so it'll be interesting to see what I'm able to achieve with these. Now, skin is something that is a bit of a devil's art for me, pun intended, so it'll be interesting to see how well I actually fare in the long run here. So, let's jump into some painting. Now we are going to start painting flesh. Now, flesh is something that I've struggled with for the longest time for a number of reasons. One, inexperience. For the most part, the models that I've painted haven't had a natural skin colour or flesh tone to them. They've either been Xenos flesh or they've been armoured. So by that logic, obviously my experience and exposure to flesh hasn't been that great. However, there are a multitude of ways in which you can approach flesh. Some people use a 3-layer approach, so you go in with a very dark layer first and foremost, then you make it even darker with a flesh wash or a flesh shade of some description, then you come back in with your highlights and work up from there. Some people use purely just paint. They work from a mid to a dark, then back up again to the highlight. And that's actually the way that we're going to be doing it today. Now, one of the great things about this paint set is it actually shows you a step-by-step guide as to how you would approach painting flesh. And I'm actually going to use this to give this a try. It's an interesting one because it starts off with the Athena skin, then it moves into the succubus skin, then it moves into rosy flesh and pale flesh to the highlight. So it's going to be quite an interesting one, and obviously I'm using the Vallejo paint skin set, which is the Game Colour version 2, so the 2.0. You can tell that by the red cap bit there. I'm going to try this out and see how it works, and there's a small possibility that I might actually get a few more colours from the Vallejo Game Colour 2.0 range in time to come, just to test it out, because from all the reviews I've seen of it so far, this stuff's worth its weight in gold. So we're going to give this a try. Now, I'm kind of going to be batch painting these. I'm going to be doing the same bits on each of them as we go through, so I'm not having to finish one model off, then come back and start again with the other. So we're going to be doing the flesh on both of them first and foremost. We'll be starting off with, I believe it's it's the Anthea. I was going to say it's the succubus skin. So we'll be starting off with the Athena skin, and then moving into the succubus, then moving into the rosy, then moving into the pale. And we shall see how it goes from there. I'll be doing that on both of them, and then we'll come back, have a little review as to how it's gone, and then we'll move into the cloth work and that sort of thing. So let's get into painting. Woo! So far, I'm really quite liking where this is going. Now, I'm following the instructions that come with the pale skin set from Vallejo. So far we've done the Athena skin. So I've done the three. I've done the 3 layers, and that's fine. So I'm now going to go onto the succubus skin, and I'm going to use it to paint the shadow areas of the skin. So as I say, I'm just following this verbatim, but I mean the coverage so far for the 3 layers that I've done on both miniatures has been brilliant. Now obviously there's a couple of splotches here and there, but that's because I've been trying to work on it as best I can and getting as much coverage as I can. But as you can see, I mean, it's so smooth once you get over that second or third layer. It's indistinguishable from actual skin. So big shout out to Vallejo for this, because so far the effect is phenomenal. Now, when it comes to the shadow side of things, it's not just going to be like blotch colour. I will have to look in to doing a blend between the Anthea skin and, sorry, I keep on calling it Anthea, the Athena skin and the Succubus skin. But once I do that, in theory, it should actually help blend a shadow and quite a decent consistency in the darker areas and in the underbust, into the lower thigh areas, that sort of thing on this model. And then again, nearing the back of the model here to near where the cape hits the model, under the arms and that sort of thing. Because if you see as it sits, that is light directly from above, so you can actually see where light is actually hitting the model. So if you look in the cleavage area here, for example, you've got a darker area underneath the breast, and then like below the nipple line, so to speak. And then on the top, obviously it's highlighted. Same with the thigh, so you've got thigh like lighting going over to here, but then all where there's the flesh bulge just above the boot, you've got a little bit of a shadow there. Same with the crotch area, and same with the leg. So I'm going to try my best to use this lighting rig or lighting setup to just kind of define those shadows. Even on the face, if you look at the jawline and then obviously on the brow line, the true light is on the nose and the cheekbone area. So let's give it a try and see how it all pans out with the Succubus skin. Where I'm currently at with this is a pretty interesting place. The skin is looking quite nice and the gradient is okay as well. This is definitely a technique that I need to practice on, but for the time being I'm happy with progress. The shadows are showing where I need them to show, and overall it is looking quite decent. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start moving on to the red for the cape, and I think I'm just going to trying to get this model finished, if I'm honest with you. It's not much left to do on this one specifically, but I am going to try and get the cape done. I'm going to try and get the boots done. I'll get the cape and the boots done on the other model, and then we'll move on to some of the detail work, and then we'll finish off with the pumpkin over there. Let's jump into it. So I'm at a really weird place with this model. So I did roughly 14 very thin layers of skin, and it turns out that 13 was the optimum amount because I absolutely ruined it with 14. I've been going through the Vallejo game color range, so it's the 2.0 range. The paint is beautiful. So before I go any further into this tale, this stuff, the coverage is it's phenomenal. Like, I can't kind of put into words how well it applies. Like, it's almost like painting with satin, and I know that's like really weird, sort of a really weird way to explain it, but the way that it flows on the palette, the way that it flows on the model, the coverage is absolutely perfect. It's got the right opacity. It works really, really well. So Vallejo, you've done well. I like it. The pale skin set, sort of the instructions it gives you So it tells you to go from Athena skin down to succubus, then up to rosy, then up to pale flesh. And that's fine. I get that. However, the step between like rosy flesh and pale flesh, something didn't work right with me. Something just didn't feel right. Because when I was at the rosy flesh stage, in my head I was like, right, cool, you can stop. But in actual fact, well, no, I should have. Well, this is the thing. I should have stopped there. But then when I went to apply some highlighting steps with the pale flesh and I tried to blend into that, it didn't feel right. It didn't look right. And then it ended up looking like just basically beige wash, and it just didn't work. And it's not the paint. The paint's perfect. The paint on its own, it's exactly the same as the Vallejo, like the other Vallejo colours. Like, you know, I've got no qualms with the individual paint, but I think it's just my understanding of the theory behind things. So I'm at a stage now where I've kind of tried to fix it as best I could. So I've got the larger model and the smaller model up to a stage whereby I've done a corn red on the cape, the garment of clothing that she's wearing, and the gloves and the boots. And same sitch with the bigger model. So it looks cool, don't get me wrong, like, it looks really cool. I'm now in this kind of interesting phase whereby I need to do detail work, I need to do some touch-up areas and whatnot, and then finally go on to a little bit of base work. Now when I say base work, with the Kingdom Death models, I don't really do much in the way of basing on them. I just kind of like leave them as is and then just paint what I need to paint. And for these, I'm just going to keep them dead simple, dark. And I use Retributor armor, so the gold for the actual base. It's like a little discus holder. So you've got the base, and then you've got like a discus holder that you put the discus into, because the bases come in two pieces. But I paint that bit gold. It's just what I've done with some of the other ones that I've completed. But outside of that, it's looking pretty cool. I think what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to get these finished. So rather than sort of jumping in and out and giving you narrative and all that sort of thing for the remainder of this video, I'm keen to just get them done, because I'm kind of in this position now where I'm like, I'm not agitated or frustrated. I'm just keen for them to be done so I can figure out where I need to improve. And that's a good thing. That's, you know, I don't want to rush it, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to interrupt that cycle, because as I'm finishing things off, I feel I'll be in a better position to relay that information at the end of this video. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump on to, what shall I do next, or what am I doing next? So I think I'm going to do some touch-up work on the flesh, and then I'm going to move on to, there's some black areas. So the top of the boots, they've got a black band around them. The top of the gloves, they've got a black band around them. There's also some hex pattern using just some fabric. So it's a nice pentagram on her chest, so upper chest area, the back of her cape as well, so the actual inside of her cape is actually black on the collar area, so that'll be interesting to do. Bottom of her horns, I'm going to do a wet blend there, and also the trident, and then I'll finish off the lantern as well, and you know, the pumpkin, of course, because, you know, I can't just leave her on a pumpkin. And then also the flesh worms that are coming out of the pumpkin. I'm going to see what I'm going to do with them. I might do a little bit of purple just to kind of mix everything together. But outside of that, I'm happy with how this is going. This has become a lot more of a development of skill and a lot more of kind of touching and feeling my way around my journey in skin and my journey in painting, really, than it has been just a fun paint project for Halloween. But that's a good thing, because I'm all about learning. I've been speaking with some really, really great people. So JD in the Sump Sea, you may know him. He does some really, really cool, So I've been speaking to Dale from JD in the Sump Sea. They do some really, really amazing stuff, predominantly with Necromunda terrain. But Dale, in his own right, is a phenomenal painter. He understands theory. He's really engrossed in that side of things. And he gave me a few pointers the other night. We were on a Discord call and we were just having these great conversations about everything to do with the hobby. And I was kind of at this point whereby I just made that mistake with that pale skin, the pale flesh, and he just nodded away and he smiled and he was like, "You've chose the the hardest models to do this on, haven't you? And I was like, yeah, I have, yeah. So big shout out to Dale. And if you haven't watched any of the JD and the Sump Sea videos, they do Necromunda stuff. They do Necromunda terrain, mainly scratch built, but they've done loads and loads and loads of different boards. They're just absolutely phenomenal guys. So please go and give them a watch, because they are the boys. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the final time lapse of this joyous video, and we shall catch up when everything's said and done. So, off I go. And with that, we're finally done. The last few details have been added, the base has been complete, and, well, I'll let you see for yourself. I'm really happy with how this came out in the end. I didn't use that many colours in the end, to be honest. I used a handful of Citadel colours. I used the Vallejo pale skin set, and overall I think that the models themselves lend themselves quite well to that flesh tone. I did come out with some learning points as well, that there's a lot more to flesh and skin that meets the eye, and that's something that I'm going to take away from. Now, just to put this in perspective, this is going to be the start of a new series, and it'll be intermittently interspliced throughout the entirety of my sort of catalogue of videos going forward. But Kingdom Death is a game that I really want to play as well as paint, and I have quite a large amount of models for Kingdom Death already, with a few more that may be getting purchased soon. But anyway, outside of that, happy Halloween. I hope you've had a wonderful time. Thankfully, I've had no trick-or-treaters. I've finished this literally on Halloween evening, so unfortunately it's a little bit later than I anticipated it coming out, but it does kind of stick to the Friday schedule, so that's not a problem. Outside of that, I think I'm going to leave it there. Look forward to an interesting video next week. I might be starting something cool. But outside of that, if you want to see some more Kingdom Death videos, stay tuned. If you're new around here and you've found this video because I've been painting Kingdom Death as opposed to my normal stuff, I'm basically I'm going to be going between Kingdom Death, Necromunda, 40k, potentially some Mordheim, and a few other things in between. And I hope you stick around for that. But as I say, if you've liked the video, please drop me a like. If you're new around here and you haven't done so already and you want to see some cool new stuff, feel free to subscribe. But outside of that, I've been Matt. This has been my beard. Happy Halloween.